Hi, I'm sure you have seen dozens of videos, endless of articles. Those videos, articles talking about what's happening now between Israel and Palestine. But the missing part is the whole story. It's just from one side of the picture. Let me share some facts with you. Facts you might hear for the first time, and some fake, misleading news that brainwash you. Just like recent fake news claimed that Hamas beheaded over 40 children. Such as a horrible news. Actually, my heart is bleeding. But wait a moment. The whole story turned out to be nothing but a hoax. Admitted by the same journalist who spread the story. Beheaded babies. Come closer. Doesn't this remind you by a similar story that happened in Kuwait? Before the Gulf War against Iraq, a horrific testimony was published from a 50-year-old girl. This girl named Naira Sabah, the daughter of Kuwaiti ambassador in the United States. Naira published her testimony in front of the Human Rights Caucus in the United States Congress on 10 October 1990, in which she claims in her testimony that Iraqi soldiers were attacking hospitals, taking out babies of incubators and leaving them to die. But later, many independent organizations discovered that her testimony was entirely a lie. Matter of fact, it was a part of an organized media campaign to justify the Gulf War. Subsequently, Naira al-Sabah's testimony became a classic example of modern atrocity propaganda.
Saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators, took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
This picture, shared on social media by the actress Jamie Lee Curtis, claiming that those in the photograph Israeli children attacked by Hamas missiles, with caption, "The terror from the sky." It's actually heartbreaking for those Israeli children. But once again, wait a moment. The whole picture also turned out to be fake, and it has been taken inside an UNRWA school in Gaza. Jamie Lee couldn't deny that, and finally she deleted it. Justin Bieber also shared a picture of a demolished city with a caption, "Pray for Israel." Matter of fact, the post of Justin Bieber turned out to be fake as well. The picture is for a Palestinian destroyed neighborhood. What is the reaction of Justin Bieber? Did he apologize? No, he didn't. He just deleted the post. What a shame.
Now, before we go, earlier on BBC News, we reported on some of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations at the weekend. We spoke about several demonstrations across Britain during which people voiced their backing for Hamas. We accept that this was poorly phrased and was a misleading description of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations.
Have I forgot to mention that Washington Post in one of its articles said, which is totally true, the amount of bombs that Israeli military dropped on Gaza in just 1 week were equivalent to those thrown on Afghanistan by the US Air Force in 1 year. The media refused to mention that human rights groups and the United Nations officially described Gaza as the world's largest air prison in the world. At least if you are in a jail, you have water, you have food, sometimes you have entertainment, and the most important thing, you are safe from being bombarded. But for Gaza, it's a different story. Israel cutting off resources like water, food, electricity, and medicine. Bro, it's not a fantasy novel. It's not a parallel world. It's the reality in Gaza. The reality that you will never see in your media. And this reality is ongoing for 70 years now. This immense prison, populated by over 2 million human beings, like me and you, in a geographical spot that is only supposed to fit a quarter of that number. I'm sure you will say the most sentence cycling now in the social media, which is, "But nothing justify violence." You're right, violence brings violence, and nothing justify violence. This sentence is always used when it's not in our side of the story. I will show you how. If that's so, why the Western supports Ukraine to kill the Russians? You will say the Ukrainians resist the occupation of Russia. Ukraine are humans, but Palestinians are not. Is that even a human sense?
There was one interesting message I saw in Telegram from the Middle East, by the way. They say if you cannot sleep because of Russia-Ukrainian conflict, there are some advices to calm you down. First, imagine that this is happening in Africa. Imagine this is happening in the Middle East. Imagine Ukraine is Palestine. Imagine Russia is the United States.
Have you ever heard that Israel, since 2008, has waged 5 destructive, bloody wars on Gaza, killed more than 6,400 Palestinians and injured more than 10,000? 6,000 1,400 souls were wiped out. That number is just in Gaza Strip, without mentioning the West Bank. You might be wondering why Palestinians are attacking Israel. Let me ask you that question. How Israel come to existence? What was on that land before Israel's existence in 1948? Everybody agree. The Palestinians were living there. Muslims, Jews, and Christians. They were all living together. You will say, but God given that land to the Jews. It was inhabited by their ancestors thousands of years ago. Based on that measure, the Moroccan Muslims has ruled Andalusia, Spain and Portugal for over 800 years. So do we have the right to claim it back? If I said so, I will look like an idiot. For the God's sake, how you give the right to yourself to displace a nation from their land and raise wars against them simply because your religion and your God says it's yours?
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
Have you watched that video before? I don't think so. It's not included in the Israeli propaganda. That guy isn't a normal person. He is Israeli defense minister, clearly saying Palestinians are nothing but animals. There is an important question. Why there is a resistance in the first place? White phosphorus is one of the internationally banned weapons. You were never told that Israel is using it now in Gaza? Let me shock you again. Israel has been always using it in Gaza, even if it's a banned weapon. Amnesty, Human Rights International organization, has accused Israel for committing war crimes by using white phosphorus in Gaza. Israel didn't use it for Hamas fighters, instead using it on a heavily populated area in Gaza. And most of the victims are civilians. The same international organization, alongside with many others, accused Israel for committing racial segregation against the Palestinian civilians. While always in the media, Israel has been described as the only democracy in the Middle East. Really, what a shame. So how can a human being with morals and conscience can accept the occupation, the colonization in the modern days? Palestinians for 70 years are being displaced from their homes, their land, stealing their houses, treating them with racism. A racism worse than South Africa apartheid. Well, is it enough? No. Raise wars over and over again, using internationally banned weapons, and detain them in the biggest open-air prison in the world. Would you like to live there? You want to experience it? I'm sure your answer will be no. And if the Palestinians fight back, for sure Israel is not the blame one. They have the right to defend themselves. But Palestinians, no, they don't have the right. Most famous public figures and celebrities, they stand with Ukraine, they stand with justice, they stand with freedom. And the most important thing, they stand against the occupier. And when it comes to Palestine, shamefully they turn back. It's not about Hamas and Israel, and it never was, and it will never be. It's about a nation facing a genocide. Don't stand with injustice, stand with Palestine.